Okay, people, we here today on Success After Lockdown, another episode under Exodus Productions. Today we're here to speak to a brother that I grew up with, you know, and behind that wall. We get into, we elaborate more on that once we get into this interview with him. But right now, I just want to introduce you to my co-host, which is Anthony.
Okay.
Anthony Cologne.
Everybody know who it is. You already know.
No question, man. And, from the street to the BX, man. All day, every day. This is what we do, man. So, we got a brother here from the HBO, You know what I mean? We don't really need no introduction. You know what I mean? But we going to give him one, you know what I mean? Because, we got to get him flowers, you know what I mean? When you're alive or dead. But that's my brother Lamont Bryant. We call L, man.
Welcome to the show, my brother L.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah.
Listen, man, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here on the show, man. We're gonna kick it right in, man. 'Cause we got a lot of people that interested in knowing about what L do, where L came from, what he done, and what he's doing today, which I find amazing and fascinating when we hear it and let everybody else hear it. So I just want to start with, tell me where you from.
Well, I'm from Harlem. I
Harlem.
was born in
HBO.
Harlem. I was born in Harlem Hospital.
Question.
But sometimes I actually tell people I'm from upstate. And maybe later you'll tell me. You'll learn why.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my life up in there. So even though I was born in Harlem, raised on 140th, Lenox and 7th, I basically spent all my time up there. So even though I'm a Harlemite, I came back to Harlem unfamiliar with it.
Yeah, I know that's right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in Harlem in your time? What was like in your household?
Well, I lived with my grandmother, my cousins, my aunt, my mother, and my uncle, and my great-grandmother. So it was a household full of people. Basically, my family, my parents got caught up in the crack era, of course, and I was one of those kids that grew up without their parents because of that.
Right.
I ran them streets right there on that block, and I was just into what I saw. That was basically it.
You see how easy it was for you to say your parents got caught up in that crack era, of course, because it's just so similarities to all our families, man. Back then in that crack era in New York City, man. Growing up where we grew up at. But yeah, man, it's definitely deep, man. But
I know you said, yeah, man. Like, listen, that was an era. These kids don't even know. Right, today's era is, the fentanyl and all that other stuff, but that's a whole different story, man. Tell me about, what you was arrested or convicted for.
Well, I was arrested for a murder that took place in Harlem that basically I was charged for but didn't do. So basically, I'm thinking that the system is going to do what it does. 'Cause I never had no experience other than a little drug case.
Yeah.
But I never went to court and had to deal with a system. So
how old were you?
I was 16.
Wow.
I just turned 16 that December.
Now, did you go to Island? Did you go to the Island? Or did you go to Spofford?
No, they actually charged me as an adult.
Wow. So you went straight to the Island.
Straight to the Island. I went to the precinct. When they took me to they caught me out of town because I went on a run for 6 months. I came back and I got caught up out there for some drugs and they brought me back here extra.
Yeah.
So while they had me here, we know who did it, and they tried to put me in a room to make a statement. And I was like, I didn't have no lawyer, but I just was repeating shit I heard from the TV. Oh, I need a lawyer.
Right.
So they fed me, and then took me into the room and told me to sign a paper. And I'm like, no, I need my lawyer. Even though I didn't have no money for it, I didn't have it. Yeah. But I just did it because it sounded cool.
Right.
And next thing you know, I'm out the chair in the Fort Nelson, and another detective come and hit me in the stomach, and I didn't realize until I came home what that was, but it really was. They fed me. They fed me, gave me everything I wanted in the pen before I went in the room, and then I just flipped the script on them, and so they wanted me to throw the food up maybe. So I was like, that's the only reason. Why would they pick me up and hit me in the stomach?
Right.
But yeah, that was the experience I had with the criminal justice system. Of course, I didn't know that I was gonna get convicted. I'm like, yeah, they're gonna find out, and I'm gonna deal with it. Obviously, that wasn't the case. They convinced a jury to find me guilty, and they convicted me as a sole perpetrator. I didn't even have no co-defendants of murder. Of course, you see what my parents say. I know people like, yo, where your family at? What happened with your family? I was in the hood with a family that didn't have the means to come up with ideas or solutions or financial assistance to help me. And that's the case in most cases out here.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So I got convicted, and I got 22 years only because I was in Rikers Island, and I got my GED there. I guess people were seeing who I was, and they came and testified, character witnesses. And next thing you know, I had 3 character witnesses. He took off 3 years. I said, I wish I had 25 of them, because I would have probably got off.
Right.
And that was just me just having that thought now.
Yeah,
But
no doubt.
back then when I got sent, it wasn't that. I didn't have this type of energy. I was just shocked. I don't even think I could have fathomed it then or now.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems with our system right now, right? As young kids running the streets, right? We really don't know the stuff that we're getting into, right? We don't really have no basic idea or concept of how to deal with the justice system, right? A lot of us are so naive.
Yes.
And a lot of people get caused to admitting to something that they didn't do, right? And then you got to go through the system and be someone that you really don't want to be just in order to survive, right? Like you served 22 years. What was that like for you?
Well, I mean, like I said, I couldn't even think that far down. 22 years later, that's like, I probably could have thought maybe a week or 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
But I basically was in shock mainly when I first got in. I mean, I think when he said 22 years, when the judge said 22 years, I probably just looked through him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't even cry, but I cried when I got
Yeah, of course.
back, and I cried in
The
on
delayed
island.
reaction.
Everybody know what happened. Everybody come back to the house. I'm just done. But I was still in shock even after I came upstate. You know what I'm saying?
All right. So how did you manage your time while you was in there? Like what did you do the first couple of years? I know it's like a learning process. You're just trying to adapt, trying to just keep your head above water, just trying to freaking survive. Like survival mode just kicks in now, right? Yeah. Because I talk to a lot of people, and I know that when people talk to me, they go, "How did you do 22 years?" Right? And I go, "Listen, when you're sentenced to whatever amount of time, nobody wants to do the time. Yeah. But when you're sentenced to it, for some reason, we adapt." And we learn, and we have to come to the understanding and figure out, you know what, it ain't gonna go nowhere. They're not gonna wake up tomorrow and say, you're released, you gotta do the time. Now, how can I do this time to be either productive or be destructive? Right? 'Cause when we decided to be destructive while doing this time, we add more time on top of that time because we don't see the end of the original time we're supposed to do.
No question.
That's a fact.
So,
So I say initially, like I said, I was in shock, so it was really about just survival, and you just go off of what you hear. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I experienced Rikers Island in 94. You understand what I'm saying? So it was just a whole different environment, and so while I was there, I was just fortunate that I had a grandmother who was connected, to people who ran the school. And so they would allow her to come to the school area, and she was always the one that pushed me for school.
right.
So I wound up getting my GED while I was on Rikers Island.
Nice.
However, there, I mean, it's just like you just had to move in a way that you had to always be prepared for violence.
Especially at that time.
You never keep your back available to anybody.
We were just,
talking about that.
Yeah, we
have to be-
were just talking
Yes.
about that. People don't understand that about us, right? Even today, my wife asked me, why every time we go to a restaurant, you always have to sit with your back against, always looking at the door.
Yes.
And it's hard to explain to her because that's like you just don't understand. But when you get, your neck shanked while you up in there from somebody behind you, and you seen people get hurt, like you always want to know who's coming in. I want to be that person that's alert. I don't want to ever get caught sleeping again.
That's a
No
fact.
question.
And I was definitely like that. I'm not a violent person. I ain't really have a violent history. I was a kid from Harlem that, I was just impressed with what I saw, and I just was trying to emulate it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What happened to me and put me in there now that this is my life is basically 22 years of it.
Yeah,
I'm in
they
there
changed the
16.
game.
I have more of my life in there, so it's in the sense that everything that I developed, it developed from that experience. So I'm getting back to when I'm in there, it's like, I have to be aware of, and I was young. I was 18 when I went to, my first prison was Green Haven. And I'm grateful that they had a lot of militant-minded people there because, some of that had impacted me while I was there. But I was fortunate as well too. I ran into a neighborhood hustler that was known. You know what I'm saying? So it had a reputation. So it was like, you know, I was fortunate in the sense that I know I wasn't alone now. You know what I'm saying? Watching him grow up. So at least I had that type of protection. However, most people used to be like, you know, come to the yard, hang out, just do the yard, get, smoking weed, you know what I'm saying, doing the yard
Just
stuff.
doing nothing.
Basically doing nothing. But dudes that I was around, they was more in the sense that, yo, it's okay to go like to the program, in the program area, go to legal studies and black history classes. And, you know, I wasn't familiar with that either. I had to even get comfortable with that, just sitting in the classroom. And just listening to people talk about positive stuff and, give me information that I have to decipher like a school. I ain't been in school, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's like, but I got comfortable ultimately because I stayed. I just, and then that also changed the way I started thinking. And then I think it was probably in like my 7th year of aimlessness. I'll call that aimlessness.
Yeah.
I don't know, I had a thought in the yard I was spinning and it was like, damn, I got to do 22 years. Like, I'll be 38 years old. And so to a teen, that's like, to me, I was like, that's an old man, like an old head.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when I had that, at that point, I started thinking about what I, at 38, what I would look like. And all I had to look at was people in the yard around me. Like I had to do, you had the dude that was in the yard picking up cigarette butts. You had the dude that was dumb as a doorknob, just working out in the gym and just working out getting brown. You had all the, the drugs and all that was going on. And so that lifestyle was like, I'm like, damn, I don't want that. Like say I might have seen somebody that was an old head that was like, that old smooth old head that nobody mess with. Yeah, I want that part of him. But he's into stuff I ain't into. Or that guy right there, he's very articulate. You know what I'm saying? Like he you know what I'm saying? Like people mess with him, but he's just like he can speak and communicate. You know what I'm saying? I want that. You know what I'm saying? So I had an uncle who was around that age. I even thought about him. Was like, he was always responsible and had like a home for his kids and stuff. Yeah. I was like, I would take that from him. Right. And I think at that point, it wasn't intentional, but I think at that point I started, like every decision I made to get in this class, or to do that class, or to get involved with this and that, to make me who I am, it was all a part of the person that I was building in my head when I was in that yard on that 7th year. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Everything else was working towards that. I didn't even really know it. Right. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. And that's good because you answered my question before I even answered, right? Because that was like my next question. At what time did you figure out that you had to make some changes? So you spent 7 years like just wandering around trying to figure stuff out. Aimlessly, right? We just call that, you're still trying to figure it out. Do I want to continue to finish the next 14 years of this biz? Do I just want to continue to wild out, or do I want to start to do something and prepare? Like we always talk about in our podcast, re-entry, and when does that start? A lot of people think that it starts when you get out. It should start the day that you go in, right? Yeah. Whether innocent or guilty or something, right? You got to prepare because no one's going to care about you more than you care about yourself. Exactly. Right? And we have to take control of that and play a pivotal role in what we want our life to be.
Absolutely.
Right? And so 7 years, I know that you decided to educate yourself in there, and you and Eric got a good history. Tell me about that, because you mentioned that going to the yard, it was easier, and I know this for a fact, right? It's easier for us to go to the yard and be a part of the crowd doing all the aimlessly dumb stuff that, you know what I mean? Because we don't want nobody to say, look at this soft ass motherfucker going to this class. Look at this soft ass motherfucker with a little net bag, no camera circle, books in there, right? In a little square, right? Yeah. But nobody wants to be that person, but it takes a defined individual person who knows who they are and what they're trying to achieve to continue to keep walking. When they like, yo, where you going? You're like, yeah, all right, you go ahead and go pump all the iron. You go ahead and go pick up your cigarette butt. You go ahead and go play handball. You go do, I'm going to go because I got to prepare for myself.
Yeah. I got something to do. So for me, it was fighting demons. And so I want to know, what were those demons that you, because that's what it sounds like you're saying, man. What was those demons that you were fighting? Because I think we all fight them at that time of transitioning. at that time of our growth and development. That's what the growth and development process is, when you actually you gotta call yourself and say, what I'm gonna do? Am I gonna keep going to the yard, going to the gym, or I'm gonna go to the law library, I'm gonna go here. So what was that time for you? Like, what, you know what I mean? Define that time.
Well, I mean, like I attributed a lot to the people that were around me, like the older heads that I came up with. And, you know, in a sense, I'll say I was under their protection because I was making the right decisions. And like, you know, older heads from Harlem, yeah, that's gonna be the new Harlem right there. You know what I'm saying? That was the type of mentality they had for me. So I didn't have to experience, I never involved myself in gangs. I never got religiously involved because it just was the concept that when I came in was like, yeah, you're a punk when you're getting involved in these things. So for me, I was like, that was like coming from Rikers Island. I never joined a gang.
Right.
And so I did have people around me that were probably tough people as well that just, you know, kept things straight for me and let me do things without feeling uncomfortable.
They were tough.
Yeah.
They were tough.
I know them.
Bilal, they were tough. The people around you was tough. A lot
That's
of
a fact.
Go ahead, though. I ain't mean to cut you off.
But they, you know, they kept me in line and they made it easier because they didn't discourage you. You understand what I'm saying? Because all it took was somebody to discourage you to make it look like, it make you feel bad about doing something productive. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't. So it was like, it was easy for me. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, particularly at this point, but it was just something where I'm learning. I used to always have a neighbor that, old head neighbor that you always arguing with. He got a college degree and all that. I got my college degree in the street. Yeah. He used to just get at me like, yeah, you don't know, like something he read or concept. He just know everything. Yeah. So I was like, yo, man, just because you this age don't make you experienced. Because this is why he used to hit me. Like he's a certain age and he's experienced. Right. And so I'm like, no, because you could go through some experience and never learn from it and go through it over and over again. So I can experience, I could do that same experience, learn from it, and never do it again. And that's how my life operates. I can be more experienced than a person older than me. You understand what I'm saying? So, and getting back to the old heads, these are the type of people that were around me. You know what I'm saying? These are things that was challenges for me. I had one older brother that he had me one day. He's like, yo, you think you could write? I said, I know I could write. And so he gave me a challenge of writing a paragraph about responsibility, redemption, and rehabilitation. Yeah. And man, he sent it to me 5 different times. I did it, and I sent it back down into his cell. He'd send it back up. Now I do it again. The 5th time, I was mad. Right. But what I realized, he actually was helping me because I did change it every time. He was sharpening. And so at the end of it, he gave me a book about how to write. You know what I'm saying? How to write. And later on in my bid, when we link up, you'll see the type of person that those people I came in contact with created or helped create.
Yeah, and I think those are the forgotten voices that a lot of people forget about, right? We always talk about the tough guys in the prison system. We always talk about the guys that made a name for themselves, that was banging out, that was fighting, right? But we forget about those guys that actually took people like us under the wing and try to educate and try to school, as opposed to make feel like, yo, go be a part over there, right? You always got those old heads that pull you to the side and tell you something that you had never heard. Like, personally, I had old heads put me to the side and like, yo, man, you a real smart guy, man. Like, stop acting stupid.
Yeah, that's how they
Yo, it's ironic. It's crazy that you say those forgotten voices, right? Yeah. Because me and him was a part of creating an organization called Forgotten Voices. And we turned it into voices from within. Yeah. So, and that's we'll talk about that soon.
And that's what I think that's what the concept of, this podcast and what we're doing, right? Is not letting those voices, those men and women that are in there, that no matter how much time they have, they still doing something positive. They still trying to motivate and take someone under the wing and give back one little thing that they can give to a person. They're not gonna reach everyone, but they might reach that one person.
Yeah,
right? And I definitely was reached.
So you was in there. So we were in there together, and me and you, we met under educational conditions. Yeah. Which was a good thing, and that's why I think you was blessed too that you actually got to go to Green Haven when you first came up, because that allowed that educational setting. You know what I mean? That was a progressive prison, so that actually helped you a lot. And that's the blessing I see that you know what I mean, that created you, that helped.
We had a lot of
to
brothers
shape
fresh
you
off
up.
of Attica there.
That's right. So I want you to tell me, like, tell everybody what PACE is and how you got involved in this and what you did around PACE, man. It's one of your jobs, man. This was one of your full-time jobs. I think was your passion.
Actually,
so talk about it.
Yeah.
All right, so I got involved in PACE by mistake, to be honest with you.
Tell people what PACE is.
I love it.
All right, PACE stands for Prisoners for AIDS Counseling and Education. And it's basically a prisoner-ran, prison-operated program that basically educates the population inside prison about facts about HIV and AIDS. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, a lot of people are in prison. You know, a lot of people say people that come out of prison, are the ones bringing HIV out to the community.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, people don't realize is that a lot of people in prison came to prison positive. You know what I'm saying? And they just being released, and they only learned while they were in prison. So the numbers that's there are like really misleading, and so now people really believe that be careful about dealing with a person that was in prison because you never know. You know what I'm saying? So those is all myth, and we were breaking those myths down with PACE.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I was in Eastern Correctional Facility. They said that's the foundation of it too. So that's why I was one of those sharp PACE members. And what happened was I was there for a brother named Al Simon, who ran PACE at the time, and he told I was coming just to get information on how to help create a van service, and that was my purpose of meeting him. But while I was in an office, you had brothers that I knew that was in there, and they doing their proficiencies and completions, which are basically presenting a portion of HIV information effectively enough to where a civilian that comes from the outside can say, this person knows their stuff. And then in the proficiency, you can do it for half an hour on any topic dealing with HIV, and then you're proficient.
Get your
And so,
certification.
they was like, he was like, why you? I was there doing my band thing with him. So I was like, let me try it, let me do it. So that's how I got involved in PACE.
Okay.
And I guess, the experience of the brother that was helping me write, the idea that I wanted to be articulate and speak, and then the brother let me actually do the presentation for the first time, and I aced it. And I really didn't think that this was gonna be something I'd be doing, but I guess at the end he was like, yo man, you can talk, like you can speak, like he encouraged me to like and gave me that motive to go for the proficiency. And once I did that, got my proficiency, came to Sing Sing, like a year after that. I'm in Sing Sing, now I'm looking for something to do. I heard about Sing Sing, this is the swing. So I said, I need to be active. I'm at this point where I need to be active. And of course, the first place I'm gonna go is a place where I know that I might could get a job, is PACE. And sure enough, that's how I met Charles first. And,
that's Charles Moore.
Charles Moore, yes. And I met Charles, and he, basically, I basically did a presentation to him about what I do and what I've been doing and what I've done since I had my proficiency. So he was like, okay, I want you to come to the office and meet the rest of the team, a mentor, Tai Chi. I think the Jamaican brother, I forgot his name, man, but he got deported. And I met with these brothers, Stepper, it was Stepper. So I wound up going to the office, I knew a couple people, and I'm like, oh, and they gave me like a test, like, what you know about HIV and AIDS. I got 100, right? And then I realized that, I knew a lot. Like, I really knew a lot. Like, my studies, like, really taught me a lot about the HIV. So, I thought I knew more than my peers at the time. And, that used to keep us in conflict all the time. But I just stuck with it because it was just, I had a knack for it. And I enjoyed it, you know what I'm saying?
And that kept everybody sharp, that competition.
That was my thing, keep everybody sharp.
There's nothing better than just building, right? While in prison, positive building. Everybody want to always look down upon. But I think, for a person to openly talk about HIV and AIDS, right? A lot of people don't know the difference. There's still that stigma. Right?
Definitely.
And like I took a couple of courses, and Like a lot of people still use the word AIDS, and it's like, you know, it was told to me like the only person that can define you that you have AIDS is the doctor, and that's when your CV levels go below 200, right? But today with today's medication, it's not the death sentence, and people are still afraid to get medicated or afraid to go and find out what their status is, right? And you can live a full healthy life. Even with HIV, it doesn't mean, listen, if you had a choice how to choose your cancer or HIV, like a lot of people take cancer because they're uneducated, right?
Listen, there's something right now that a lot of people, I don't know how many people, even people that are positive, don't know that there was a study done called U equals U, right? Undetectable equals untransmittable. And what it says is that basically if you maintain an undetectable viral load, like under 20, for 6 months or more, that you cannot transmit the virus to someone during a sexual encounter.
Right.
And that doesn't apply to sharing needles and all the other modes of transmission.
Right.
But that is huge for people who look at that, who have that, and their sex life is altered.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't even know that. You know what I'm saying? And so now today, though, you see a lot of several discordant couples. People might be classified as HIV positive, and those who haven't tested positive. So,
and I think that's to bring that awareness, because I think when we talk about this topic, that became more popularly talked about is with Magic Johnson. And they see, what was that, 30 years ago? They still see Mike Johnson still, right?
Still thriving.
Still moving forward, still living a beautiful, healthy life, right? Still living. It's like, wow.
And running
30,
all them businesses.
Yeah. So it doesn't stop and define you, right? And I think the mentality of human, that when we're hit with such bad news, that we let it collapse us and break us.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes we just need to find out who we truly are and take that and let it embrace and just empower us to continue to educate.
That's a fact.
And to put forth out there. Right?
Yeah.
And so thank you for that, man, because that
Yeah, and I'm also looking for like just things that all the things that we spoke about. You spoke about inspired you inside, and what motivated you. Like, what were some of the things that you brought out here upon your release? You know what I mean? From in there. What were some of the things? Some of the I guess certifications that you came with, the preparation process, and what you doing now. Like, what motivates you today, man? Why you go so hard with helping the community? Talk about all that. You know what I mean? What you into now? Where you work at? You know what I mean? You spoke to us earlier, but we need the audience to hear.
I want to put
what L doing?
All right. Well, right now let me also just give you a background, because you wouldn't understand it unless you hear a little bit more about what I was doing in there.
No question.
And so I also, at one point, as I'm doing PACE, I'm doing college, I'm trying to earn my associate's degree to get my master's. However, that skill of writing that I picked up was something that, and then when I'm getting to Sing Sing, I'm in PACE is right next to the law library, mind you. So naturally, I'm gonna go into one of the trainings on how to write a grievance and stuff. And of course, I start to realize I have a knack for it. And like to argue, like to find arguments, to research. And I didn't want to try nobody's criminal cases, because I didn't do, because you can make a mistake on a grievance, but you can't make no mistake with nobody's life. And so I stayed away from trying to be a jailhouse lawyer.
Absolutely.
So all my thing was towards administrative law. So you might call me an administrative lawyer. And I started to learn how to write the grievance. I started doing that. Then people heard about it. I started helping them write it. And then next thing you know, somebody might have came to me like, yo, I got a tier 1. Could you help me? All right, let me see. Learn how to do the appeal. Boom, I did it. Next thing you know, I started doing tier 3, tier 2s. Boom, now tier 3s is boxing material. So I'm doing appeals to Albany now. And next thing you know, they stopping us, they breaking us, they stopping us from getting some juice, some play, pardon me. And next thing you know, I gotta go Article 78 to the courts. And so they don't give you no play, or if they give you play, I start learning how to do court of claims. You locked me up unlawfully in my cell for 15 days. You know what I'm saying? And I could have been in college. You know what I'm saying? And so I want money for every day I was confined. And so that's how, and I actually learned that skill. And of course, I became the guy when everybody got in trouble. They call it L. You know what I'm saying?
I'm a witness. I'm a witness.
And then here comes, you know, yo man, you should run for ILC, yo. You know what I'm saying? Run for ILC.
Yeah, you gotta run
Then,
there.
I mean, I'm helping out them little population, but ILC allowed me to access the whole population because you get to walk around the prison now. So I'm not just excluded to the people in my block. And so now I was able to see more people and help more people.
That's right.
And so that's how I'm known in a way. They even know me for Mr. Pace, or they used to call me Baby Johnny. But only for that type of law, not the criminal law. So going from there, so going from there, you know, right before I, went to parole, I wound up getting my master's degree, mind you.
That's
there.
right. Let me get a good.
Real, like, that's the story right there.
And you know, when I went right before I came home, you know, I was in a dilemma because you know, I didn't do the crime I was in here for. Parole was still on that. Nah, we ain't letting them go.
Right.
And I'm up for parole, but dudes know I did a lot, and you know, I probably got a good background in prison, but I'm not taking responsibility. They say, and so I'm like, okay, all right. But friends of mine, like even people that would come to visit me, like my homeboys that went home and came, was like, yo, listen, man, just tell them any story, man. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna, you know what I'm saying? They, all they want you to do is say, yeah, I did it. You know what I'm saying? I said, nah, because if they hit me, and I know they've been hitting dudes. I said, because if they hit me, it's only gonna be my fault because I lied. And even if the lie was to help me, it's still my fault. So I said no. And despite even homeboys that was around us in the circle, I was like, nah, I'm doing it. I created my parole packet, admitting that I didn't do this crime. And basically, when I went to the parole board 6 months earlier, that's because I had the master's degree. They let me go 6 months earlier.
LCTA.
Yes.
Unlimited credit time allowance.
That's right. And for a significant program accomplishment.
That's right.
And so they wound up giving me, hitting me. And their response was, because you still refuse to name the people involved, despite all the good things you've done, we're hitting you. Like, we're not letting you go.
Right. I
said, damn. So in my mind, I'm like, damn, what did I do? And I'm sitting here and I'm like, all right, I wrote this whole thing out. I'm mentioning names. I even like, instead of, because I knew I couldn't take responsibility for killing somebody, but I took responsibility and, and I think this book called Restorative Justice, I was reading the restorative justice model. And it talks about how they approach, crime and criminal justice from the perspective of including not only the victim and the person who perpetrated, but also the family members of the victim, the family members of the perpetrator, as well as the community that the crime occurred in. So when I looked at that, I said, damn. And a light bulb just came in and I was like, damn, I did, by not telling, I did leave a real live murder on the street to murder somebody else. That, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I could take responsibility for that. You know what I'm saying? The family of the victim, they don't know the truth because if they think I did it, then they don't really know the truth. You know what I'm saying? So they deprived of the truth of what really happened to the child. So, I took all responsibility for all this. My family, they was a burden. My grandmother, older woman, she coming up there kicking the door and bringing packages. So it's like, these things these was at the forefront, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I just got a little, thinking about my grandmother just now. That's why I got a little offbeat just now. She passed away before I came home.
Sorry to hear
and she put me on the path of education, and she passed before I actually I just got graduation. I graduated from CMP. Yeah. But from there, I was like, I gotta get a master's because that's the one who was pushing education.
Absolutely.
But bring me back, please. Bring me back. Pardon me. Bring me back.
Yeah, you got big theory over here.
Listen, I'm a passionate person, so you see me animated and stuff. Yeah. I'm passionate. That's all I like to say.
That's what's real. That's what we hear, right? We want people to see the good, bad, and the ugly, right? The real. We don't all have to be tough guys. We don't have to be the bad. Man, we're gonna cry. Men cry. I don't care what nobody say. Men cry.
Listen, people respect. I learned that well inside prison, man. People, I started realizing, damn, I used to see a lot of phony stuff, phony people pretending, trying to do things to be, a part of things. Yeah. I said, damn, but then this dude just different over here, and he being himself. Like, he's respected. Like, people respect the fact that he's just doing him, like being himself.
Yeah.
Of course, he ain't nobody wanted to, whatever he's doing, it ain't affecting him.
Right.
But
Yeah.
if you're doing your own lane,
Yeah.
you don't have to be in the lane that everybody else is in. You know what I'm saying? And so, let me move on, because I know I was in the part where I was going before I came out. And so I just want to get you to understand the type of things I was involved with, you know, before I actually stepped out of prison. And so, I came back to you know, to the block. You know, I'm pissed. I'm trying to figure out what the hell happened. I'm naming everybody in my parole packet. I'm doing everything I had to, you know, my everything. I knew I took responsibility because I was able to see it.
Right.
And so I realized, damn, the whole time I wrote everybody's name out. I even wrote the deceased name out. I even told the story of my part and where I was at, everything. So I was like, damn, I didn't include a name. You know what I'm saying? I didn't include a name. And I think they, you know, looked at my thing and actually realized I didn't put the name when I'm talking about the incident, but I put names throughout my whole packet.
Right.
Yeah.
So that may be the reason why they said, oh, despite all you've accomplished, to today you still refuse to name individuals involved. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, wow. At first I'm just thinking like, they know I ain't do it, and they still like, you know what I'm saying? And then I had like in my sentencing minute, I found out, you know, after like when I was preparing, I wanted to reach out to the judge. You know what I'm saying? Because the judge in his sentencing minute said, which I highlighted was, I think this individual should be released at the first possible opportunity, right? This is during his, after he sentenced me to 22, that's part of the sentencing minutes. So I found out later when I'm looking him up to write him, he had passed away out here in Harlem. He was, I think his name was Howard Bell. And he's known for that guy, Black Rose, White Justice, Color Blues Bruce.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he, I heard that, or at least when I had my wife look him up on the internet, it didn't speak, it said he passed, but in his obituary, it speaks about the youngest person he sent to prison. So obviously it was enough for him to talk about to where whoever did his obituary put that information in there. You understand what I'm saying? And I don't know, maybe he thought he might knew, you know what I'm saying, that I probably wasn't, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I guess whatever the court process is and wherever he was at and however he was a part of that process, you know what I'm saying, he didn't do what he said, but I guess by saying that, I guess it helps, because you know, most people, they getting a lot of bad reviews on their sentencing minutes.
Right.
But this is what I came home after parole, so pardon me, but so I go back, and so I just added a name. I just put any name inside my parole packet. I think it was Thomas or some shit. And I sent it back, went back on my actual parole date. Said the same thing I said before. I didn't do it, but I take responsibility for this. Blah, 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 blah. And you know, Brian, I think you should be grateful, and you know, we're gonna see you, you know, in the future. You know, and I'm hoping you're gonna do some things. It's like, okay, but that was the sign to me that they was letting me go.
Right.
And so I came out. You know, of course, you still was nervous because you know they could talk you nice, but they never, you know, respond. They talk to you nice, but still hit you. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
of course. That's they known for.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm going now. Let me get back to I made parole. I did here. I was married, of course. I was married 9 years in prison.
All
My
right,
wife,
man.
Denise.
Sorry to hear that about that too.
Yeah.
My condolences to your wife.
So and she passed away 3 years after I came home. I had just got off the road. We went to Myrtle Beach for a vacation.
Yeah, that's
celebrate
pretty
our
interesting right now.
anniversary.
Yeah.
And then she wound up having blood clot. So we like, all right. So when she go to the hospital, to the clinic, they say, oh, you're pregnant. You know what I'm saying? I've been trying to have a baby. I don't have no like kids biologically. So, you know, I'm like, damn. And next thing you know, a month later, you know, after going to doctor's appointments, obviously they weren't detecting it. And she died from an ectopic pregnancy. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I was like, I was basically back. It seemed like I started all over, like I came home all over again. You know what I'm saying? Because she was that person that when I came home, she was my assistant.
Right.
So helping me go get my ID, telling me where I need to do this.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, you know, I'm still reeling from that a little bit, but I'm more or less, I think I have a resilient nature, you know, especially coming from that background. So like I'm still doing what I do. I'm working. I'm glad I'm working, and I'm involved in a bunch of different organizational things. Particularly, I have been instrumental in this new SNAP project they got going out of Queensboro and Edgecombe.
Yeah,
I sat down and spoke with some DS members, with a couple of brothers like that was similarly situated, and we spoke to the idea that people coming home with $40 and they don't know when the next 45 days where they gonna get their next meal. So how we gonna you know, what can y'all do? You know, got SNAP. Y'all could give people Medicaid.
Yeah.
And so the thing that worked for me was because in prison, when I used to meet with the superintendent, arguing the issue, and it used to be a policy, a procedure that was messed the population up. But they saying because it's in there, you know, y'all gotta follow it. But a superintendent could go in and put in a waiver to Albany, and they could get the policy removed from their facility. So I knew the idea of going to the waiver. So with SNAP is a city-state program, a city program, and they get funded from the feds. So they're the ones who have the policy that you can't do no SNAP while you're in prison.
Right.
So they got it waived. On that suggestion, they got it waived, and now they're rolling out in Queensboro, Edgecombe, and they're planning on 5 more, Docs is planning on 5 more other facilities to give dudes SNAP benefits coming directly home.
And like, yo, that's first of all. Let me give a round of applause. Now, let me tell you why. That's so amazing, right? Because and you just almost took me back. That $40. What are we supposed to do with $40? Coming home from jail, right? You got nothing. It's the clothes on your back if you have that. Right, little freaking bag with your little piece of the mail, your little manila envelope, right, a couple postcards, and some people still come home with a pack of ramen noodle soups. I've seen it, right? You got $40 in your life.
25 years, 50
You was, yeah, you know what I mean? You in prison, and you come home, and now you got these $40. You got no place to go. You don't know where your next meal is at. And a lot of them have drug addiction, right? What do you do with that $40? 9 times out of 10, most people go right buy a pack of cigarettes now, what, $13, a bag of dope, $20, and then that's it. Let me feed myself with some potato chips, and I'm done. Right back into the system, right back into square one, right back to the recidivism, right back to a number, right? Instead of giving a person, you know, it's easier for a person to think straight when they got some food in their stomach. My team would tell you, when I'm hangry, if I don't eat throughout the day, I get very irritable, discontent, and snappy. Right, so I gotta eat. So you have to imagine a person coming home and got nowhere to go, no food put on the table. That's a big thing.
You talk about food insecurity.
Yeah, like you understand what I mean? Like, you know, yet to be able to have that, and if you have a family member to say, hey, I can contribute to this. I can buy a couple of food, groceries, and stuff like that.
And most people don't have it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just that to me it was just and it's based on, you know, me, you know, I like I said, I was in there doing PACE and the legal work, and I want that to be in context because like where I work at when I came home, I was on the corner in Harlem selling watermelon. You know what I'm saying? For my homeboy. And
yeah,
the
10%, get 10%.
Yeah, yo, but check it, the homeboy though was a person that I met in Sing Sing, even though he's from Harlem. Yeah. And he came through the PACE program, and I like took him, like mentored him. Right. And he became a facilitator. And so when I came home, I seen him and he had that. He was like, nah, you gotta come get some money, you know. And he had me selling watermelon and getting 10% off the day, you know, whatever he made. Right. So I, you know, and I did that for a couple months till I got another job. This job was dealing with people that are living with HIV in SROs. They had me working as a what you call it, a residential aide. And I used to basically just do intake for people that's coming to live inside these apartments. And because I knew about HIV, and this is the population, it was like good. I was getting $700 a month. No vacation, no benefits. But I realized that everything I had on my resume was in prison. Yeah. So that I did for a year until someone that I knew in prison doing HIV, he used to come from the outside. He was like, listen, man, did you find a job? I'm like, nah, still rough. He was like, listen, see, I think you fit the description of this. You know, this is I'm talking about. I killed. So, and he was like, listen, man, put your resume in. And when I did that, man, they called me 2 days later, did the second interview, and I just talked about what I did and with pace.
The North Run.
Yeah, and next thing you know, I've been there ever since. I just helped complete a 5-year contract. So, I guess I have a good background now out here as far as my work is concerned. But the work is specifically people that are coming home HIV positive from state prisoners. Basically, they meet up with me, and I basically help link them to medical care. I help them, come up with goals that they have for themselves. Any barriers they may face. I mean, the normal barriers. Some people. I had a dude came home 30 years with no social security card. Never had one. Wow. So he had no records because he was locked up for 30 years. Yeah. So I got it in 6 months. That's a whole nother story. But this is the type of work I do, making sure that the things that's going to stop them from getting their own health care, that I try to help them tackle. And, I guess it's depending on to them, what's the priority. Because, a lot of what I do is like, it's participant-centered. You understand what I'm saying?
And a lot of people don't have those resources. What you do is full case management. Right? We call that case management, right? Yeah. Though it may sound like it's simple, but a lot of people yet don't know how to navigate through the system to get the things that they are entitled to or can have. Yes. They yet don't know how to go to. Listen, trust me, I know, and to what you're doing is so amazing to be actually come from your background, what you experienced, to go spend 22 years in prison as an innocent man, to come home to being with your wife and have to go through what that experience, to losing your grandmother, to losing your mom. Yeah, I applaud you. I can't say enough. I'm honored and privileged to have even met you. You know what I mean? And for you to take control of your life and decide to educate yourself and be a service to this community. Definitely. Right? This is the thing that the parole boards don't see. Right? They're quick to judge you by a little folder that they have right here, but they don't see the man that you really are and define how you changing lives. So thank you for that, man.
Yeah, so and that's why this platform, man, that's why we're creating this platform here, to highlight those individuals as yourself. You know what I mean, El? So we did a lot of big things together growing up behind that wall, man. Yes, we did. So and it was all a growth and development process, you know what I mean? So I want you to know, you know what I mean? I thank you for your service too, man, because I know you go hard with the community. In there we went hard. So I know out here you go even harder. You know what I mean? So I want to, congratulate you too, man, on your freedom, man, and being home, man, and being that success, man, that success story in your own right, man. Well, I love everything you do, man.
And for all those out there, man, we want to thank Exodus Production here in East Harlem. If you're looking for some resources,
that's right.
You know what I mean? For job placement, entertainment, case management, they doing it all down here. Look them up at Exodus Production and Exodus Transitional Community in East Harlem. I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in to this episode. My boy L over here. Giving us the background on what he's doing, what he's been. To everybody out there following us on Success After Lockdown, please let your people know to subscribe to us and follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor. Apple Podcasts. If you drop a comment, you can send us emails to successafterlockdown@gmail.com. So real quick, Al, what is the craziest thing you've seen while in prison?
Behind that wall.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was actually coming out for child one day, the tight cell, and I don't know, there was a drama between the whites and the blacks at the time, and my neighbor happened to be a white boy. And I just basically came out my cell one day, and I'm witnessing dude just run up in there and just stab, just literally stab him. And just back up out and just keep it moving. To me, that was I was traumatized. You understand what I'm saying? That was traumatized. I mean, I've seen, I had fights and we, dudes was fighting and, on Rikers Island, we dealt with razors. You seen people doing a lot of, but it was more about fighting really. But when I got upstate and I started seeing that and I seen that, when he got stabbed, it wasn't with no. It wasn't with
Yeah.
no like no thing he.
This was
found
your
dead.
neighbor.
Yeah, with the tate quieto.
He had nice guts.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? In prison.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm like, damn, like, this is real.
Yeah,
This
no
is
question.
real. And I guess maybe that might have helped keep me in my lane.
No question.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's
Or
right.
stay away from the people or the things that might make those things happen.
Yeah, those, that was your blessing too. That
Yeah.
seeing something like that. Your neighbor.
Yeah.
You know?
And then there was times where, like, you know, it was like, say somebody, for some reason, somebody didn't like somebody. You know, this is a tactic they'll do. They'll burn their cell, burn all the property in their cell, and then the administration would have to get them out of the block.
Yeah.
So this is how you got rid of somebody you didn't like.
Yeah.
And so I'm coming out one day, and a cell is on fire. So I'm thinking, you know, first thought is like, okay, put out the fire.
Yeah.
Or tell the, you know, fire department or something.
Yeah.
But everybody was going the opposite direction, like they
Yeah.
didn't want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, damn.
Don't
And then
see
I-
nothing, don't know
then-
nothing,
Yeah,
don't
but
say
then I
nothing.
found out that I was learning how to avoid normal human behaviors.
Yep.
To run away from helping somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I was scared that if I was seen in the area, I would get a ticket and get written up and, you know, locked up.
Yeah, you gotta be
Absolutely.
you gotta be dehumanized, right, to be socially accepted by the masses of the incarcerated mindset.
That's the
Right,
grip.
and trust me, I know. Real quick, if I have, like, I remember when I was in Green, one of my little homies, Spanish kid, got his face split open bad, and he came to me and asked me, was it bad? And I seen the police behind me, and I couldn't even open my mouth to say, I just had to walk away. I ran into him years later in the street, and he asked me, and I told him, you know how the street goes, you know how the prison system goes. If I would have talked to you, I would have went to the shoe. Man, it's sad reality that how we have to do to fit in there. Man, with that, I don't ever want to go back to prison. Nobody here ever have to go back to prison. And
Oh, we going back. We going back next year though. We
Yeah.
going to the graduation.
We're going to
We're
the
gonna big up
graduation
Mercy
next year.
College.
I'll do that.
We're going to Mercy College graduations in Sing Sing. I want to big up Mercy College in Sing Sing. The fellas in Sing Sing. Y'all already know.
But at the same time, it's about progress, man. It's about being in a different space than you were yesterday.
No
You know
question.
what I'm saying? A better space than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, that better might be different, but you better.
It's better.
You
No
know what I'm
question.
saying? So, and that's how, you know, I continue to do what I do, despite the shit that go on, and you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Sometimes I think it's the motive, and sometimes I think I go through it because it might be something I'm preparing for a bigger, that they might need a person who experienced all this hardship to be there for this situation.
That's
So,
right.
you know,
being a selfless
Yeah.
human being.
Now that's success.
That's success.
Peace.
You know what I'm saying?
No question. See y'all.